Be inspired or get inspired.
Your success or failure depends on your attitude. And if you're
Yes.
inspired, you're going to have a good attitude, which is going to propel you forward to success.
This podcast is brought to you by ISU Corp. Are you having trouble with your software projects? Is there a project that's taking too long or a technology you can't handle? We can help. We are ISU Corp, experts in custom software since 2005. With almost 20 years of experience, we can solve any technical problem from new businesses to satellite software. We've done it all. Let us turn your ideas into reality. Learn more about how we can help by visiting us at www.isucorp.ca. Your solution starts here.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Break Free podcast. I am your host, David Mansilla. Today we have with us Jason Rose. Jason, welcome to the show.
Thank you, David. I appreciate the opportunity.
Jason, for the audience, can you tell me where do you live, your full name, and what do you do for a living?
Sure. I live in Nashville, Tennessee, and which is healthcare capital USA, and a lot of people believe. And so it's Jason Rose, R-O-S-E is my name, and I've been in the healthcare technology business for nearly my entire 30-year career, and I currently am the CEO of a company called Clearsense, which focuses on data management for healthcare.
That's fascinating. You know, one of my main businesses is a custom software solutions company, and we do service the healthcare industry. So having seen somebody that is dedicating their life to that is fascinating. Jason, so your entire life you've been around healthcare technology?
Yes, so very much focused on healthcare technology as my entire career, really. And Clearsense is really a strong component of value within that space as well.
So what's the main purpose of Clearsense? What do you guys do? How do you add value to healthcare?
We will typically engage in three particular areas for health systems and newly involved with payers as well, managed care organizations. And so I would think of it as in three particular areas. First area is going to be what we call application decommissioning, where we are identifying legacy applications. This is, thousands of different applications that will be opportunities to decommission those applications for cost reduction per operating expense, as well as cyber security posture improvement. Second area is going to be data management as a service, where you're pulling in real-time information to help build AI and build other analytics on top of the data management stack that we create or enable to occur. And then the third area is research, helping because of the vast array of data that we possess or can possess. We have analytics and tools to identify cohorts for clinical trials and analytics around those areas as well.
That is fantastic. So you come in, you sunset applications. Do you guys develop the new systems too, or you install new systems? How does that work?
Yeah, so what we'll typically do is whether through a service partner or through the health system itself, we will there will be a program that is identifying application rationalization, meaning looking at the all the thousands of applications or hundreds of applications, depending upon the size of the health system, that are in its domain, and identifying which of those applications would benefit from being sunsetted because of maybe there's mergers, acquisitions that are causing this to occur, or maybe there's a new electronic medical record, electronic health record rollout or other kind of standardized enterprise application program that they're trying to put in place. And so we take in the applications that should be sunsetted and put it on our platform. It's called the One Clearsense platform. And we recreate the reports that are within those systems that we're going to shut down, but we also aggregate reports from the hundreds or even thousands of applications into comprehensive reporting. So you're getting a more complete medical record that's higher quality as well. And then we also give instant access to clinicians on the hospital floors or in the ambulatory setting, as well as operationally for health information management or release of information, things of that nature as well, from a consolidation of disparate reporting systems.
That is fabulous. That is fascinating. And I don't even know how people will come up with creating a company like that to begin with, you know? And the brilliance that I see is that then you can mine the data that you guys are actually collecting or generating to even add more value on top of that, right?
That's right. Yeah, and so what I guess my view is that the vast seas of data, not a lot of information, and so there are some would say that data is like oil, right? It's like a rich opportunity, but you have to mine that correctly. In order to mine that correctly, you gotta curate it. You gotta find opportunities to find where the data is, which is frankly part of the battle. There's a lot of health systems that don't even realize that they even have applications. There's shadow IT that's occurring. There's applications that people thought that maybe they had shut off some time ago, but having the intention of identifying that this is the applications that need to be sunsetted but not removed, because for compliance reasons you have to have this data pretty much forever. I mean, in some states are 10 years, some 25 years, but really you kind of need this data forever in reality, at least in our terms. And then taking that data and consolidating it for access to reporting instantaneously when you're not still paying for the licenses, the headcount to maintain that, and all the security exposure that you have. It's a really critical component so that you can now mine it, so that you can now place analytics on top of that, so that you can also add live production data on top of that longitudinal comprehensive data, and gain even more value on top of that, whether it be artificial intelligence or machine learning or Tableau or Power BI, whatever different types of insights you're trying to create, other applications and tools as well. So just having that really solid data platform is critically important. And I think that without having that, it really inhibits innovation. It sounds simple because it's so foundational, but data within healthcare is so complex and comes from so many different disparate areas. Not even to mention, the payer land, but just even on the health system side, yeah, payers is even more complex. But having that data that you have a source of truth, the data is accurate, and the data is complete and high quality, is pretty important, so that you can actually mine it and find more insights and more value out of it.
That's fantastic and fascinating, and it sounds like a very complicated job. I'm a technologist, so I know exactly what you're talking about. Exactly, and we've done data transformation services for a long time. Thank God I'm not involved in that anymore. It's not easy, right?
Yeah.
Jason, did you go to school for this? Like, what is your schooling? How did you get into this line of business?
Yeah, so my graduate program is at the George Washington University in the business school back in the 90s. And I always like to say that I I happened to be working in the IT department. It wasn't really a purposeful area I was thinking I should work in IT. It was more of I just happened to have an opportunity to work in the IT department of a very large medical practice group within the medical center of George Washington University. And then so when I was required by the Health Services Administration program to choose a discipline within the master's program, I had a choice of 3 areas: ambulatory, long-term acute, or ambulatory, long-term, or acute, or those types of areas. So I didn't like any of those areas. I didn't want to really work for a hospital per se. I didn't want to be in work for the government, and I didn't want to work in a nursing home. So I went. I also happened to be at the time on an EHR steering committee. This is 1995, before EHRs were really a thing, or even healthcare IT was even a concept.
Right.
And so I just saw that there would seem to be a ton of opportunity for healthcare and technology to work together. All the other industries had, why not healthcare? And it's easy to look back now and say, well, of course. But back in 95, that was not the case at all. Healthcare was really fighting against technology innovation. So I somehow convinced the dean of the business school to accept a curriculum that I custom created to be in technology innovation within healthcare that required me to also do an internship at a company. And then I somehow convinced Cerner Corporation, and I'm actually the first graduate intern for Cerner. And I always joke that I might be the only one, but I know I'm the first one because they told me that.
That's amazing.
Back in '98, and so I became then that the Cerner internship program completed my requirements for my degree, and then of course they hired me full time after that. But that's my kind of background in terms of education.
It's the first time in my life that I hear that a student creates its own curriculum because you wanted to fulfill a need that you thought it was important. Congratulations to that.
Thank you. Yeah, no, it's like I look back and I said, wow, that was pretty wild foresight back then. So I try to think of, you're in Canada. There's lots of hockey in Canada. Nashville loves hockey as well, although the Predators unfortunately just lost to Vancouver last week. But I try to think about where's the puck going, and the puck was seen to be going in the direction of healthcare tech, and in academia, even in the business world, it hadn't caught up to this theme yet. And I just had sort of the foresight to think, okay, where would I like to be in 10 years? And if I get in early as a 20-something-year-old back then now, then I can maybe take advantage of a new area that would open up. And the school was fantastic to partner with me on that. And so now, years later, I think this was in the early 2000s, they actually created a permanent program that I would say largely centered around similar aspects of what I had created back in the mid-90s.
Amazing. Thank you for pioneering that, because you're completely right. Back in the 90s, everything was paper, and it's sad because banking was already on computer science. Even retail had computer science already. And what's most important is, clinical health records. Like they're working with your life, and they had to go back to a book to find maybe an X-ray from like 10 years ago, and it was all handwritten. Like think
right.
about and you're talking about people's lives.
Yeah, and so and the way I thought about this quite a bit, as you can imagine, and so they're back in with the Affordable Care Act in the United States, they had the EHR stimulus, which was about $30 billion stimulus to get health systems on electronic health records, so everything would be digital. But I'd say the sad reality is, and this kind of comes back to the future, is that back in the 90s, or even the early 2000s, you had all the paper silos, right? And so that was the case then. now today, even though we spent tens of billions of dollars, probably even more than that, on digitizing all the electronic health record data, they're still in silos today. They're not interoperable. The data is hard to get to. It's still disparate and complex. And so what we've done is we've transferred from paper to digital, and it's we still have some of the same issues we had, frankly, back in the 90s. And so finding a way to, I believe strongly that technology is here, and it's probably been here for some time. It's finding the right solution to leverage that technology to focus on the bread and butter. It's so easy to say, well, AI is going to fix everything. Machine learning is going to fix everything. The next new, it was blockchain. That was a couple of years ago, right? That was the big thing a few years ago. And what the common thread on everything is the data. And if you don't have good quality, comprehensive data, then all these other areas, all these analytics, all these innovative tools are for naught. Because if the data that is buttressing these tools and insights below it isn't good, then it's going to be a false read on what reality is, and you'll at best have a less impactful outcome.
And and the opportunities are immense. A couple of weeks ago, I was talking to a CTO from a company that what their job is digitizing test results from cancer patients. That's their business, right? So they go in and they convince hospitals, convince clinics that all this needs to be digitized and organized properly in a database. But now they're building a component on top of it with AI. And he actually showed me on the screen, and he says, look, he could actually see with machine learning if a test result was not correct. So he will show me, I think it was 2% of the people, they didn't detect the cancer. 2%. And he said, one person is too much. If you have an MRI or you have an exam on somebody and say, no, and the clinician says they are cancer-free, 3 years later, the person is dead.
Yeah, no, it's people's lives at stake on these issues. And then you take, that's actually within, I think what I'm hearing you say, that was within one clinical environment. Well, what if you're going from this health system to that health system, and they don't share any information? It gets the silos between your medical record. It's the same thing we've been talking about for literally decades now, and so it's so important to get it right.
For sure. So, Jason, how was your career until you became a CEO? What was your first leadership position within healthcare IT?
So I started at Starner, as I was saying, and I played a lead role for a number of different massive projects that gave me insight into large-scale programmatic deployment, and so amongst larger programs. So I was I was recruited by Capgemini Ernst & Young, and I was on these projects that were multi-year, 1,500 people, really intense environments. And I learned how, taking technology, even if you have a great piece of technology, how you deploy it at scale is really how you can really drive an innovative impact. And so it takes a process. It takes structure, it takes transparency, commitment, intention, all those things. And so I had early on, and this is in the early 2000s now, where I took on team lead roles within these massive projects that gave me, just even today, I still use that as my experience set. And so eventually I became a CIO. My first 10 years was on the health system side, and I became a CIO of a company that was focusing on driving performance outcomes, reduce costs of care, improve quality of care for the post-acute and the custodial long-term setting for a vendor. And my my first week on the job at this new company as a shiny new CIO title. I was very proud of myself that I finally achieved that. I think it was in 2004, and the CEO invited me to a meeting and asked me to evaluate this new technology that we were going to roll out within a very large managed care organization. And I walked away from the meeting. And I said, I'll figure out the technology. What I'm concerned about is how you're going to roll this out, how you're going to get buy-in from all these clinicians that use the tool, and how you're going to evaluate performance and metrics and KPIs that drive the outcomes that we're committing to this massive managed care company. And so the next day he came back to me. He said, Jason, I heard what you said. I think you're right. How about you take that entire product over? And
Wow.
and so I said, I said, well, yeah, her name was Sam. I won't say who Sam is, but her name was Sam. I said, well, what about Sam? I thought that she was soon going to be responsible. He goes, well, Sam will report to you now. I'm like, and her whole team. I'm like, oh, okay. And he said,
Just like that.
yeah, you own everything. You own the product. You own the relationship with the client. You own all the hospitalist company relationship. You own all the skilled nursing facility relationships. You own everything. And that was my first big jaunt into running a P&L. Instead of just being a CIO, now I ran a P&L and product innovation. And that really changed my career in an instant. And so over the last 20 years, I eventually shed my CIO role a couple years after that, and just became purely focused on business, creating explosive products, learned discipline in marketing and sales, and driving operational excellence and things of that nature. And so after joining a startup company back in 2008, the company was called Inovalon. Back then it was called MedAssurant, and I renamed it called Inovalon. It was part of my marketing role there. I built out a bunch of products and clinical products that drive quality improvement. I created a sales and marketing, a strategy office, all these great things over about 8 or 9 years. We did a IPO on NASDAQ, $4 billion valuation, ended up selling it private to go for $7 billion. And I said, you know what? I think I'm ready to be a CEO somewhere. So I took my first jaunt at that back in 2018 and took the plunge as a CEO, and a really successful turnaround situation, focusing on medication adherence technology platform, again, driving outcomes and performance, and just enjoyed it very much, and just recently sold that company and joined Clearsense as my next CEO gig.
What a beautiful career. You know, I am old enough to know that there is no coincidences in life. So I'm a man of faith. I follow the Lord Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior. But I didn't believe in faith for a long time, for about 20, 25 years. And I'm saying this because you just reminded me of that. You were handed a job that you thought Sam needed to have, and you were not even looking for it. And that changed your entire career because you were happy in technology.
Yeah.
That one point that you were not looking for, that decision, look at you now.
Yeah, that truly was. It was and I'm still good friends with the CEO and the COO that put me in place for that, gave me that opportunity, and it really did change my whole career. And I learned I was a better innovator in products and running business and profits and loss. And I always looked at IT. Here's what I actually learned in the job prior to that. When I was the CIO, I was a leader in IT. I wasn't CIO of a prior company, and I realized I was totally dependent upon all the business people to make the decisions, and I was support for them. And I was like, well, I want to be in charge. I want to, I have my own ideas versus just being in support of them. And so that mindset, really helped me, change my whole career. So it was definitely fortuitous. I totally agree with you, David. It was was as an opportunity I took advantage of, and I continue to do that.
Back in 2013, I was in real trouble, right? I only had one business, and that was the year that I decided to do a full analysis on my life. When you hit 45, 46, something weird happens where it's like, what am I doing, right? So I was so obsessed by growing the company and making it better and bigger, and nothing was working. So I said, you know what? I'm going to just step back, go take a leadership course, because I realized I wasn't a good leader. And I was just a software engineer playing to be an entrepreneur. But the company was already there for like 12 years, right? So I took a step back to the point that I just decided to start learning, going back to my faith. And by December that year, I didn't sell anymore. I didn't do marketing anymore. I didn't have anybody supporting me in those areas. Like I said, I was just a glorified self-employed person. Right? I just got a bunch of developers and business analysts and engineers and architects working for me. But really, I was the driving force of the company when it comes with marketing and sales and leadership. So when I said this is wrong and this is not the right way to do it, I went back to school to figure it out. Well, nobody was selling. So by the end of the year, December came, 2013, and my controller told me, David, we have no money in the bank to do payroll. We always do payroll 15 days before in December so people can have their, go do their Christmas shopping. But my faith was so strong that I told her, a miracle's going to happen. And she's like, we don't need miracles. We need money, But I was so certain. And guess what? 3 days later, one day before running payroll, we got 2 big fat checks from the government that I didn't expect. Turns out that 4 or 5 years before, I applied for this grant called research and development. Canada has this, this incentive for companies in IT to push technology to better the society. And I had applied like 4 or 5 years ago for like 2 years before, and I never heard back from them. And I never rely on government's programs. I think that this is for people that want to make a buck without putting a lot of effort. So I forgot about it. Not only did that pay the payroll for that month, but it paid the payroll for next month. And guess this, my first health tech contract came in the next month in January. So January 2014, we were contracted to do a massive laboratory management information systems that jumped my company into health tech. And we never looked back. So that's what I say, there is stuff in life, there is things in life that you don't look for them, you don't know why they come, and all of a sudden you're the CEO of this amazing healthcare company.
I don't believe in coincidences either. So that's God winking at you. That's what's happening there. So I think that's fantastic. What a great story.
Jason, what has been the biggest problem? I just told you one of my biggest problems. I almost lose the business. But what has been your biggest problem in your company, in your life, in your career? And how did you get out of that?
I guess I'm trying to think. I mean, frankly, I've been in a lot of companies where there's been major challenges to turn a company around or to create new value, things of that nature. So I probably have a number of examples. I don't know if I have the biggest example, but I'll give you one example. This is my the prior company. It's called Adhere Health, where I used to work, and this is back in 2018. The company had a lot of challenges for several years. It was unprofitable. We were, and I had not been a part of the company. I was a hired CEO to come in at this moment. 4 years straight of declining growth, unprofitable. Just a lot of disarray within the management team, and just really not going anywhere. And within Nashville, they called it a sleepy little company, laissez-faire, country club kind of atmosphere. And so I came in as a change agent. And I knew enough about the value proposition of the business on quality improvement, and started looking at why the company wasn't growing. It was really it was declining materially, and I asked a lot of questions, including my clients. And so this is an amazing story. So I'm literally week one on the job. There happened to be a conference here locally, that a healthcare conference, that I had a lot of friends that happened to also be clients that were at this conference. And I said, well, I've joined this new company. What do you think about it? And they said, oh, your company's great. We love working with your company. We just would like to spend more money with you. I heard that 3 times. And
spend more money.
That's what they said. We'd like to spend more money with you. But, and I said, wow, that's like, I got to look into that. And then I go back on this is now week 2, the following Monday, and I'm in a leadership meeting with all my direct reports and the C-suite per se. And I said, why do I keep hearing this from our clients, that they want to spend more money with us? And I see people slinking in their chairs and they don't want to talk about it. And I said, well, what's the issue? And they said, well, we have a budget every year that says that the number of clinicians we can hire to close gaps in medication is fixed, regardless of what the managed care company has hired us to do, which is fulfilling our value proposition to help patients overcome social determinants of health and overcoming life's troubles, health literacy, and those kinds of things. Someone had a spreadsheet that said you get 50 clinicians to work this year. And so I said, well, that's kind of nonsense when there's these contracts that we have could be much larger and the value is there for the client. They're asking us to do this. So I set forth with my team, the CFO, the head of analytics, head of HR, and I said, let's go figure out how we can economically hire more people, generate a profit, and fulfill our value proposition within the confines of our existing contracts. So we literally grew over 100% in my first 7.5 months on the job, became profitable in that first year by fulfilling our mission. And wow. so that set course like a great kind of ride to that was went on for some time, but it was a great opportunity. So I think that almost 100%, like something like 97% of all this revenue that we created in that year to double our revenue, almost all of it was the contracts that I inherited. We did land some new clients at the end of that year, but that really didn't have any material impact in our P&L that year. It was really clients that we had had for years, and it was just sitting there like gold. And so to me, like voice of the customer and listening to your staff, not just the leadership, but the staff who are actually doing the work, listening to them. And I mean, really listening, not just hearing them and then moving on, but listening and asking more questions and digging out, where is the gold? There's in my particular company here, our clients absolutely love us. They think we have a great value proposition. And so I think that we have got great opportunity to really grow exponentially, like I did with this last company. And what I'm doing right now is I'm really, really listening to all the staff. I have called Java with Jason, where I take 4 or 5 of my employees. We do it virtually now because of, everything's remote and virtual nowadays. And we'll have a cup of coffee and I'll say, what do you like about the job? What do you think we can improve upon? And what do you do? And then we have a cross-functional people, might be operations, might be tech, might be sales, what have you. They learn a little bit about each other and what they're doing for the company. And they also have they have the CEO listening and writing down copious notes about what they think that we should do better. And I always come away with great ideas. And the same would be said going to our clients too. What value do you see in this company? What do you think we can do better at? And so right now I'm in learning mode about what I think we can do better. And I think the ideas are there. It's now taking those ideas, projectizing them, and establishing ROI and establishing what we can do to drive better value. And I focus on the mission. The mission of the company, first and foremost, is driving, better outcomes for healthcare. That's if you can focus on the mission of the company, then you can really do great things and never lose sight of that.
That's amazing, Jason. It's so important to bring people that are not in the box to see what's in the box from outside, right? And just ask questions. And that's why God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth, right? Ask questions and listen.
Exactly. Yeah, I use that line quite a bit too, David. Yeah.
And I never heard a story. When I finally hired my replacement for one of my bigger companies, he said, the problem that you guys have is that you are not farming. It's the same that you were saying. He introduced the concept of hunting and farming in sales and marketing. And when you started farming, and he started farming, and the company started to grow faster than we thought. And it's just because we didn't focus. This is the problem when you're a technologist, right? Like I am a technologist that happened to be a leader. I'm a visionary. I love creating new ideas and having somebody else implementing them. But even within our core values, we had so much that we could offer to our current clients. If you look at the sales effort from hunting and farming, it's like 10-1. Why don't you just go out and pick up the low-hanging fruit and keep your current clients happier because you're adding more value, right?
Yeah, because those current clients, you keep them happier, and whether you can make more money on them or not, it'd be great if you could, of course, and create more value. But those clients, that voice of the customer will help you have a stronger core. And so a lot of what I'm doing now is what can we do to make ourselves more invaluable to your organization? And would you be willing to do a case study with us? Would you be willing to be a reference for us? What would it take for us to get to that status? Right now, I'm blessed to say they're all saying yes and yes and yes, which is great. So, but they are also telling me you could do this better. You can automate more. You can be more efficient in these areas. And so I'm challenging my team of how we can, execute on those things with intention. Going back to my, IT days, it's a lot of this is about project management and setting goals that with milestones and accountability. It's really basic stuff. So I wrote a paper, I think about a year ago. So David, if you've heard the concept people, process, technology, you heard that? So I think that's wrong, actually. So I love when I talk about this. The reason why that's wrong is that it's out of order. So to me, and this goes to and I think you'll appreciate this, David, if you think about from a technology perspective, it's about process, technology, and people in that order. And the reason why I say that is establish the process of what's supposed to happen and document it. It doesn't have to be ad nauseum, but just document that process. Layer in technology to make that process more effective and more efficient, and then put the least number of people as possible to execute that process with that technology. And
never heard that before.
I really think that's a way it ought to be, because a lot of times it's like, oh, that technology is going to fix everything, or we need better people, or we need more people. No, you need a better process, and then you can make that process better with tech and then people.
I couldn't agree more. Actually, some of our slogans are, the secret is in the process. Our jobs is to automate processes. That's what we do for a living. And I always tell my clients, if you're not willing to fix your process before we automate it, I'm not going to work for you, because I'm not going to make you waste money on something that half works. Let's optimize the process manually, whatever it is. Let's get my people. We are experts at process optimization, right? So I tell, get our people involved in your process to see where the holes are. Make sure that the process gets validated. Once it's humming, now we throw technology at it to automate it, right?
That's right. Yeah, the technology can enhance it, but that process establishes your value, establishes the cadence, establishes, from a RACI chart perspective, who's responsible, who's accountable, who's consultative, and who's informative. Document all that stuff, and then layer in technology that'll make it better with the least number of people as possible.
It's beautiful. That's how you make a profit. In fact, for me, a business is only marketing and innovation. And innovation is making a process better.
That's
Whatever
right.
it is that you can actually apply that to any business, right?
Absolutely. Any business by the same thresholds. It's so important. And then once you establish all that, and that's your working cadence. So I've been here now 5 months in this company, almost 5 months, maybe 5 months. 5 months this week, and I was originally new CEO coming in. What's your plan? What are you going to do? And what's the strategy? And I said, first of all, I don't have a master plan. If I had all the ideas, then I think I'd be thrown out. Because that's not a collaborative way to drive business. What I do know is I'm going to listen, and I'm going to take action on things that I think will drive the business forward. And I'm going to focus on who's doing what's working, what can be improved upon, document those things, and then make things better. And then if anything else, be more transparent, embrace data, embrace transparency, and drive the company forward. But to walk in with, from the other side of the mountain and say, I know everything, I can fix everything, is just arrogant, and probably not really going to work long term. And so I really, but things like process, tech, and people, or focusing on with KPIs and metrics to drive things forward, listening to customers, voice of the customer, listening to your own staff. You don't have to do what everyone tells you to do, but listening doesn't cost you anything, and so I think that's a really important aspect, and that would be my master plan, is doing those kinds of things.
It's beautiful, Jason. Thank you so much. It's been almost 40 minutes since we started. I do want to respect your time. I'm going to ask you one last question before we leave. If you had access to a billboard in front of the busiest highway on earth, what would you write on it?
I think what comes to me, and maybe it's because of the conversation we're having here, is I'd say be inspired or get inspired.
The attitude, isn't it?
Excuse me?
Your success or failure depends on your attitude. And
yes.
If you're inspired, you're going to have a good attitude, which is going to propel you forward to success.
That's right. Yeah. I think, you have to like what you're doing. And if you aren't inspired today, then you need to figure out how to get there. So
I also know that, and that, thank you. And I never heard that before, by the way. And I also know that once
I just made it up.
But it's amazing.
But that's what
I don't think we made up things. Like, you go inside your own beliefs and your experiences, and then wisdom comes out. That's why I never send questions for this podcast, right?
Yeah.
Because it's in your DNA, and it's my job to take it out, if that makes sense, right?
Yeah.
But going back to inspiration, life is too short to live in a job that is not inspiring for you, because then you're just wasting your life, isn't it?
That's right. You're wasting your life, and people see that too. If you're a leader and you're not an inspiring individual, it comes out. And then go find something that does inspire you, and people will follow you when you do that.
That's fantastic. Jason, thank you so much for your time. I wish you the very best on your new endeavor. God bless. If people like to ask more questions, are you on LinkedIn?
Excuse me?
Are you on LinkedIn or where they can find you?
I am on LinkedIn. Yeah, please feel free to LinkedIn with me. Jason Rose. I'm at Clearsense, and would love interaction. If anyone has any thoughts, ideas, please reach out to me. I'd love to chat with you.
Thank you so much, Jason. Have a wonderful rest of the week, and God bless.
You too. Take care of yourself, David. Thank you.